It's time for the news.
The President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmadjid Tebboune, will start a state visit to the People's Republic of China on Monday at the invitation of his Chinese counterpart, Xi Jinping. The UN Human Rights Council has adopted a resolution in Geneva condemning the burning of the Holy Quran and other acts of religious hatred. And in the burning Palestinian file, the occupied city of Jenin is still suffering electricity and water shortages a week after the Zionist occupation's aggression. Those were the headlines, and now the news in detail from Radio Algeria International. First, the President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmadjid Tebboune, will start a state visit to the People's Republic of China on Monday at the invitation of his Chinese counterpart, Xi Jinping, according to a press release from the Presidency of the Republic. The visit comes in the context of consolidating the solid and deep-rooted relations between the two countries and aims to strengthen economic cooperation between the two friendly countries and brotherly people. The Prime Minister, Mr. Ayman bin Abdulrahman, has chaired Thursday a government meeting during which the finance, agriculture and telecommunication sectors were examined according to a press release from the Prime Minister's office. Saeed Bougazi has more details in this report.
In the area of finance, the government examined a preliminary draft of the amending finance law for the year 2023 presented by the Minister of Finance. This draft text intervenes to introduce actions and corrective provisions with a view to taking charge of additional current expenditure linked notably to certain measures taken by the public authorities aimed at preserving and supporting household purchasing power, strengthening food security, and consolidating the public investment program for the benefit of certain provinces to ensure inclusive and sustainable growth. In the field of telecommunications, the government heard a statement from the Minister of Posts and Telecommunications on the state of execution of the action plan relating to the improvement of the Internet connection. The presentation highlighted the efforts made by the state in the development of the Internet in Algeria. In terms of access to the telecommunications network, by the beginning of 2023, the sector had more than 5.12 million fixed Internet subscribers, including more than 776,000 subscribers to FTTH fiber-to-the-home technology across the 58 provinces, compared with 3.5 million at the beginning of 2020, placing Algeria second in Africa and third in the Arab world in terms of the number of fixed Internet subscribers. The number of mobile Internet subscribers has risen from 37 million in 2020 to 45 million by the end of 2022, with 4G coverage at 82% of the population. Finally, in the field of agriculture, the Minister of the sector presented the communication on the state of implementation of the program to strengthen cereal storage capacities as part of the government's regular monitoring of this file. This review makes it possible to provide an ongoing assessment and visibility of the state of progress of this strategic project decided by the President of the Republic.
And the Speaker of the Council of the Nation, Salah Goujil, has highlighted the importance of the media in promoting the renewal plan initiated by the President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmadjid Tebboune, to build a new, strong and prosperous Algeria. The chairman of the Council of the Nation welcomed the efforts of the members of the Joint Commission who proposed the new version of Article 22 of the text of the organic law relating to information, in accordance with the legal action on the one hand and able to preserve the security and interests of our country on the other hand. Salah Goujil underlined the concern of the Council of the Nation and its members to preserve the supreme interests of the country, its security and its sovereignty through the promulgation of effective legislation. The members of the Council of the Nation have approved the new version of the contested Article 22 of the text of the organic law relating to information and completed by the same the process of adoption of the organic law relating to information after the reformulation of the article in question. The vote took place in a plenary session chaired by the Speaker of the Council, Salah Gujil, in the presence of the Minister of Relations with the Parliament, Asma Aswar, and members of the government. The new version of Article 22 stipulates that a journalist who works in Algeria on behalf of a media under foreign law must have prior accreditation. The terms of implementation of this article will be set by regulation. Following the vote, the Minister of Transport, Youssef Sharfa, explained in his capacity as government representative at this plenary session that the role of the media is not limited to the transmission and publication of information, underlining that their mission transcends this aspect to form public opinion with responsibility and dedication to serve society and preserve its foundation and the achievements of the nation. The members of the Council of the Nation have adopted a draft law governing the profession of judicial officer during a plenary session chaired by Speaker Salah Gujil in the presence of the Minister of Justice, Keeper of the Seals, Abdurrashid Tabi, and the Minister of Relations with the Parliament, Basma Aswar. At the end of the vote, the Minister of Justice indicated that this text aims to modernize and improve the profession of the judicial officer, notably through the digitization of his activities in favor of quality justice. The text of the law also aims to strengthen the mechanisms for the execution of judicial decisions in accordance with Article 178 of the Constitution, which obliges the qualified organs of the state to ensure the execution of the decisions of justice in order to preserve the credibility of the state and its judicial authority. The UN Human Rights Council has adopted a resolution in Geneva condemning the burning of the Holy Quran and other acts of religious hatred. The resolution was adopted following an urgent debate which had been requested by Pakistan on behalf of several countries of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation following the burning of a copy of the Holy Quran in Sweden. It was approved by 28 out of the 47 members of this council. 7 members abstained and 12 voted against, including France, Belgium, Germany, the United Kingdom, and the United States. The text includes a condemnation of any advocacy and manifestation of religious hatred, including recent acts, public and premeditated, which have desacralized the Holy Quran, and a call on countries to adopt laws allowing them to bring to justice those responsible for these acts. It asks the UN to identify countries that do not have such legislation and to organize a roundtable of experts to examine the subject. The official launch of the National Strategy for Transparency, Prevention and Fight Against Corruption for 2023-2027 will take place tomorrow, Saturday, on the occasion of a forum organized by the High Authority for Transparency, Prevention and Fight Against Corruption under the high patronage of the President of the Republic, according to a press release from the authority. The proceedings of the forum, which will be held at the International Conference Center, Abd Latif Rahal, in partnership with the United Nations Development Programme, UNDP in Algeria, will be supervised by Prime Minister Ayman bin Abdurrahman in the presence of members of the government, according to the same source. It should be noted that the organization of the forum coincides with the celebration of the African Anti-Corruption Day on July 11, celebrated this year under the theme 20 years since the African Union Convention on the Prevention and the Fight Against Corruption, Achievements and Prospects, and also coincides with the first anniversary of the installation of the High Authority for Transparency, Prevention and Fight Against Corruption. Now instructed by the President of the Republic, the Minister of Environment and Renewable Energies, Faiza Dahleb, has represented Algeria at the high-level preparatory meeting of African presidents and heads of state ahead of the African Climate Summit scheduled to take place from 4 to 6 September in Kenya, according to a press release issued by the ministry. In her speech at this preparatory meeting held via video conference under the chairmanship of the Kenyan head of state, chairman of the African Union Committee of Heads of State and Government on Climate Change, Faiza Dahleb affirmed Algeria's support for the success of this summit and stressed the importance of placing the African continent at the heart of the issue of climate financing, as Africa is the region most affected by the negative effects of climate change. And to the Sahrawi file now, units of the Sahrawi People's Liberation Army have targeted with violent and concentrated bombardments the entrenchments of the Moroccan occupying forces in the sector of Mahbas, Farsiya, and Awsard, inflicting heavy human and material losses, said the Sahrawi's Ministry of Defense in its military communique number 832. Advanced units of the SPLA targeted the entrenchments of the Moroccan occupation forces in the Astila and Weld Barkarin region in the Awsard sector, while other units concentrated their bombardments on the entrenchments of the occupied forces in the Afyavin region in the Farsiya sector, according to the communique. The Sahrawi army also targeted the entrenchments of the Moroccan occupation forces in the region of Akwirat and Weld Ablal in the Mahbas sector, according to the same communique. And the Malian army has announced that 22 terrorists were killed in an ambush laid and foiled by a military detachment in Sokolo in central Mali. The Malian armed forces foiled with remarkable professionalism an ambush against a mission to supply food to the population in the Sokolo sector in the center of the country late in the morning of Wednesday, 12th of July. The 12 motorbikes were also destroyed, and several weapons seized, according to the same source. Estimated to number around 50, these terrorists are responsible for harassment of the Malian armed forces and abuses against the local population in the area, said the directorate, adding that the assessment of airstrikes against terrorist survivors entrenched in a forest is underway. And in the burning Middle East file, the Jenin refugee camp in the occupied West Bank, which is home to several thousand Palestinian residents, still does not have access to water a week after the destruction of the local hydraulic network by Zionist occupation forces after a deadly two-day aggression. Saad Bouazi reports again.
On July 7th, the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine Refugees, UNRWA, and the Office for the Coordination of Palestinian Affairs Organizations, OCHA, completed an initial assessment of the damage, indicating that 460 housing units had been damaged inside and around the camp, which is home to around 23,600 people, including 7,150 children. The July 3rd Zionist aggression on the Jenin refugee camp caused extensive damage to water and sewer systems, with at least 8 kilometers of essential pipes destroyed, according to the association France-Palestine Solidarity. The same is true for other critical infrastructure. As a consequence, since the attack, the camp and the surrounding neighborhoods no longer have access to drinking water, and 100 households no longer have connection to the sewage network, reports the association. In all, 40% of the residents still depend on the water carried by truck due to damage to the pipes in their neighborhoods. According to the Palestinian Ministry of Health, 12 Palestinians, including 4 children, were killed during the Zionist aggression. Elsewhere in the occupied West Bank, 19 Palestinians were arrested yesterday by Zionist occupation forces, according to an association. The Palestinian Prisoners Club reported that the detainees include Suhad Tawabte, 44, a mother of 4, who was arrested at dawn at her home in Bethlehem. The club pointed out that the Zionist authorities have made 4,000 arrests in the West Bank, including East El-Quds, since the beginning of this year. Zionist arrests generally take the form of night raids on Palestinian homes. The Palestinians arrested are transferred to temporary detention centers in the settlements before being transferred to the main interrogation centers or to prisons.
And with this, we come to the end of this news bulletin for today. Time now for our weekly program, starting with my colleague Asia Bakar with a program devoted to Mulud Faraoun, which will be followed by another program by my colleague Masari Ilasfer on Boalem Titish. As for me, meet again tomorrow for a fresh edition of our news bulletin. Until then, stay tuned to Radio Alger International, and bye-bye for now.
Hello, dear listeners, and welcome to our cultural program. Today will talk about a novella written by Mouloud Faraoun, an Algerian writer that was born in 1913 in Tizi Ibil in Tizi Ouzou, Algeria. He became a schoolmaster in Algeria and was assassinated on March 15, 1962, a week before the War of Independence ended. Today's novella is The Poor Man's Son, known in French as Le Fils du Pauvre, that was written in 1954 during the Algerian Liberation War. The Poor Man's Son is largely autobiographical. The main character's name, Foroulou Manrad, is almost an anagram of Mouloud Faraoun. The book opens with a preamble. Manrad is a school teacher in a small village in Kabylia, and he wrote his personal story in a notebook. The first part of the novella is a first-person narrative, with Foroulou telling about his childhood. He recreates his small village, describes the genealogy of his family and their way of life. Like a gifted storyteller, he makes us hear and see life in this remote part of Algeria. He describes the streets and the houses, the family clan and its living together, the bickering and even jealousy between his mother and his aunt. As the only boy, he was cherished by his parents and was always put first. His sisters didn't have the same position in the family, and he had better food and better care, something that he was aware of at a young age, as he tells the reader in this passage, quote, "Since I was the first viable boy born in my family, my grandmother peremptorily decided to call me Foroulou, from to hide. This means that nobody in the whole world could see me until I'd crossed the threshold of our house myself on my own feet." Unquote. That's how important he was to his family. Faraoun depicts a place where almost everybody was poor and always on the verge of being poorer. Any accident or illness preventing the adults to work could lead to starving. Any event affecting the crops could lead to not having enough food to put on the table. All of the adults' energy is spent on staying afloat and feed the family. If needed, men went to France to work for a while and sent fresh money back home. Faraoun weaves a wonderful tribute to his aunts, as he loved spending time in their house. They were artisans creating potteries and baskets with artful drawings. He remembers their craft and their affection. Unfortunately, one of them dies while giving birth, and the other loses her mind from sorrow and disappears forever, leaving young Faraoun deeply touched and deprived of the unconditional love he received from them. Their love was shown not only in their care but also in the stories they related to him, that surely played a major role in widening his imagination to make him become an author himself. With little touches, little anecdotes and memories, this scenery appears to us. We see the dusty streets and the unbearable summer heat. We hear children laughing and running through the village playing together. We see the family. We imagine Foroulou in the fields, destined to be a shepherd. Anecdotes about fights, tricks, and illnesses let us see the local traditions. The presence of the French occupier back then is only palpable in some areas like the school system and the police, as the villagers did their best not to involve the French police in their quarrels. Things start to change for Foroulou. When he goes to school, it's a sacrifice for the family. They need to buy him supplies and clothes, and while he's in school, he's not working. This was common in poor communities. School isn't seen as vital as working, and Pharaoh wonders, are family men who spend their time trying to satisfy little bellies able to also take care of little brains? As you can guess from Pharaoh's biography, going to school will be a turning point in his literary doppelganger's life. Forulu's school teacher in the village made him participate in a competition to win a scholarship to go to the college or junior high. This was common practice in the French school system of the beginning of the 20th century during the French colonization to Algeria. School teachers were on a mission to detect only lucky, bright pupils to help them go further. It was also a way to have candidates to enter the École Normale, the state network of schools that trained future school teachers. That's what Manrad and Pharaoh did. For the second part of the book, we switch from Forulu's voice to that of an omniscient narrator. This part relates Forulu's years in college and his years after graduation. There is no real plot in The Poor Man's Son. It's mostly a tribute from a grown man to his origins. He recalls his childhood with tenderness and emotion, but doesn't sugarcoat poverty. The Poor Man's Son is a novella that brings history and art together and immerses the reader in the world of a young boy whose destiny was different from that of his surroundings. And despite the sorrow and suffering revealed in the book and the tears that may be shed by the reader, The Poor Man's Son remains worth of the reader's time for the information and the artistic style of the life story of a writer as popular as Mouloud Pharaoh.